New Georgia Southern head basketball coach, Charlie Henry, on Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. I'm your host, Dave Schultz. Special guest in the middle of, not basketball season. We got the Georgia Southern head basketball coach, Charlie Henry. I wanted him for a couple of reasons. First, he's new, and we want to get to know him and what he wants to do at Georgia Southern. Also, one of his players from last year is going to get drafted on Thursday night, which he did, number 2 overall, Brandon Miller. So we talked to him about Brandon Miller. We talked to him about getting the job. He got it really fast. And, of course, we talk about expectations at Georgia Southern. So with no further ado, here is the head coach of the Georgia Southern Eagles basketball team, Charlie Henry. Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. I'm your host, Dave Schultz. Really thrilled. Been trying for a long time to get our next guest. He was coaching the Alabama Crimson Tide, and they got to be the number 1 team in the nation last year. They got a huge NBA prospect. And now Charlie Henry has taken over the reins at Georgia Southern. Coach, good morning. Thanks very much for hopping on. And how are you?
Morning, Dave. I'm doing well. Appreciate you having me on.
No, I appreciate you. In the middle of everything, we're doing a basketball show, which I absolutely love. All right, so before we get to Georgia Southern and how you got the job and what the tasks you have in front of you, let's talk Brandon Miller. All right, this is going to air on Friday, so he will already be drafted. What's it like when you are bringing in a Brandon Miller and you absolutely know he's a one-and-done guy? So what's that like, and what impressed you about Brandon Miller last year that maybe you didn't know before he got there?
Yeah, obviously it was an unbelievable opportunity to coach. To coach all the we were so fortunate. The only reason I'm here is because I was able to coach so many talented players at Alabama. Obviously, which led to a lot of winning and working for Coach Oates, who did an unbelievable job. So I feel really lucky. And then obviously Brandon was just a huge part of our success last year. Brandon's recruitment, he's a guy that he first stepped foot on campus his sophomore year. His dad had started his career playing football at Alabama. So Brandon, obviously had grew up, an Alabama fan, especially when it came to football. And then his middle of his recruitment pretty much got shut down because of COVID. So then, saw him when he was a young player, and then obviously didn't see him other than live stream, stuff like that. And then you see him again as he's going into his senior year. And, our Coach Hodgson on staff did an unbelievable job building that relationship now at Arkansas State, obviously. But getting to know Brandon and his family, when you got to be around his parents, who are such unbelievable people, you had a really good feeling about Brandon. And then he obviously proved that this year. What stood out to me most with Brandon was probably 2 things. One, his poise. Really nothing, you kind of have a nervous system, like as a, person and as a basketball player, and like what rattles you, and nothing, Brandon's poise was unbelievable on the court. He never got sped up. He, if he missed a couple of shots, he didn't get rattled, flustered, any of that stuff. So he's got unbelievable poise, which was apparent right away. And then his drive, he wants you really saw it when he evaluated himself against the other really good players in the league, and especially guys that were in his class. He wants to be thought of as the best. So those 2 things, his poise and his drive really stood out.
So the obvious comparison is to the previous year's player, Jabari Smith, same kind of guy, a stretch player. You would know this better than me. The difference is Jabari a little bit more on the perimeter, whereas Brandon seems to go to the bucket a little bit more. What would you say the similarities are and the differences are? Because they really are very similar players.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I enjoyed Brandon a lot more than
I'm sure you did. You probably had your fill of Jabari Smith.
Yeah, no, Jabari is a great player, and I think he's going to be a terrific pro. Jabari's shot making, size and shot making is really, really high level, which, similar to Brandon, because Brandon has that going for him too. It means that their floor is like really high. Like if you're that size and you have some athleticism and can shoot, they're going to be good NBA players. I think Brandon's a little bit different with his ball handling, and I think where his playmaking will eventually get to, his ability to run pick and roll, kind of be more of a handler creator in an NBA system,
Right.
I think is going to be a little bit different than Jabari, whereas Jabari's, his probably next area of development is more like using his size to punish switching defenses, whereas I think Brandon is going to be more of an advantage creator.
All right, let's take a timeout. We'll come back with more with new Georgia Southern head men's basketball coach Charlie Henry. We'll talk to him about how the job came about, because it came about really quickly towards the end of last season. But first, let me tell you a little bit about Birddogs. Love me my Birddogs. The Birddog stretch khaki shorts are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. Birddog shorts do the exact same thing as Lululemon, but fit way better. They fit way better than regular shorts that are made of stiff, restricting cotton. Birddogs fix this issue by inventing cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki, but stretches so you get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement. If you head over to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege, you get a free Yeti-style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/lockedoncollege for a free Yeti-style tumbler. You won't take your bird dogs off, we promise you. Love me, my bird dogs will be wearing them as I'm up here in upstate New York. And there's your Yeti-style tumbler. Again, not sure how they do the technology, keeping the cold drinks cold and the hot drinks hot. All right. That joke's probably getting a little bit old, but funny nonetheless. All right, let's get back to it with Charlie Henry, the head coach of Georgia Southern basketball, how he went about, how the job for Georgia Southern came about. Talking to Charlie Henry, the head coach of Georgia Southern basketball. All right, how'd the job come about? Did you answer an ad on LinkedIn? These things happen very quickly. You had to be in the middle of this NCAA tournament run. Was it a process? Tell us about how this job came about.
Yeah, for sure. They really do happen quick. So I was in Nashville at the SEC tournament, obviously, getting ready for that, and the job actually, Coach Berg, my predecessor, was a really good guy, a really good coach. When he was let go on Thursday, my agent reached out, and said, would you have an interest in that job? And I was obviously busy in the SEC tournament. I said, yeah, I mean, sure, like there'd be an interest. Well, he actually then said, well, okay, circle back a little bit later. And I talked to Jared for the first time late Thursday night. And it was just a phone call, like 30-minute phone call. And obviously Jared's our athletic director, Jared Banco. I thought the phone call went well, but, obviously I did not know how quick they would be working from a time frame standpoint. So we talked late Thursday night. We Zoomed. I Zoomed with Jared and a few other people on the search committee late Saturday night. So I'm talking about drawing a blank. Obviously, I know we played A&M in the championship game, but we were preparing to play Texas A&M in the championship game, and we were the 1 seed, so we had early games all day. So I Zoomed with those guys again. It was fairly late at night. Did another Zoom with them, and obviously preparing to play A&M. The good part is, we had just played A&M. We closed the regular season and lost at their place. So we were really familiar with them, having just played them a week ago. It actually was 8 days ago. So Zoomed with them. And then we were able to, obviously, because of some of those guys I talked about, we beat A&M finally. We hadn't beaten them before, and we beat A&M in the SEC championship. That was Sunday. Got the number 1 overall seed, and then Jared and a few members of the search committee flew to Tuscaloosa on Monday. We met Monday evening, and met for 3 hours, and then at the end they offered me the job.
Wow.
I told them I was going to take a night to think it over, because I promised my wife I would talk to her.
Sure.
We had a 1-month-old daughter who's now 4 months, but she had a lot going. I said I would talk to her before I took it. So I called him back in about 10 minutes and said I was ready to roll. So it obviously happened really quick.
really fast. So that, obviously, that you went from a 30-minute phone call to a Zoom call. At that point in time, you realized, all right, this is going to happen fast.
For sure. For sure.
All right. So
So
that, I mean, your head must have been spinning, right? I mean, Alabama, some of us may may have put a little bit of money on that, was gonna, make a run to the Final Four and possibly win a national championship. I know you guys came up short, but you already had the job before you guys came up short. Some of us were already gonna head to Louisville to watch that game as well. So I mean, your head must have been spinning, right? This is a job opportunity. The Sun Belt is this new tough Group of Five conference. You're not moving all that far away, right? We're not going across the country, and yet you're trying to prepare Alabama, which everyone is coming after. So, how do you handle that as trying to handle the Alabama thing and the interview process, and working with your family to say, is this the right move?
yeah, I would say during the like from Thursday to Monday, when we actually met face to face. Obviously, in the middle of the SEC tournament, we're talking about a half-hour phone call, like a 45-minute Zoom, and then when we finally did meet on Monday, I would say our situation and at Alabama, and I was enjoying it so much. An unbelievable team. Obviously, the opportunity in front of us, you don't get chances like that all the time. The unbelievable staff I was a part of, working for Coach Oates, the athletic department, Greg Burns, just unbelievable AD. So it kind of freed me up to where I knew I was in a really, really great situation. And I loved it so much that in the process, I could just be myself. I didn't feel pressure like I had to, you know what I'm saying? I got to know Jared, and I was just myself. And what led me was just a great feeling about Georgia Southern and the potential there and the opportunity there. So, Monday night was a little bit stressful after I took the job, and I said, man, this is really going to break on Tuesday. So that was a little bit stressful. And then the guys finding out Tuesday, and obviously sharing some hugs and some cheers and some, are you kidding me? Stuff like that. But, from then on, it was, had a lot of texts that day, but from then on, it was just back to doing,
So this was announced. This was actually announced before the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, so we went to Birmingham, won 2 games. It was nice. Only had to go to Birmingham, and then obviously, went to Louisville, and it's the nature of the NCAA tournament. We wanted to make the Final Four. We wanted to play for a national championship. Ran into a really good San Diego State team, really veteran team, and we didn't play as well. So I think everybody in those locker room knows that myself and all of our coaches, we were fully devoted to what we had going there.
All right, Dave Schultz, your host for Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. One more break before we wrap things up with the head coach of Georgia Southern basketball, Charlie Henry. We'll talk to him about what is special about Georgia Southern, what intrigued him about the opportunity and the program, and what are expectations for 2023. But I do want to thank you. Take the time to continue to thank you. We are still rocking and rolling, getting some more comments about our win totals. Seems to be doing pretty well. And it's all because of you guys. So we appreciate it. I appreciate it. Please like and share it every time you do see it. It does help us out a tremendous amount. We're so close to 300 subscribers, and it continues to grow. The more people join, obviously, I think it's just the algorithms get a bigger reach, and more people see the videos, and the more people see the videos, the more subscribers, and yada, yada, yada. So do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Also, don't forget, if you can't get to YouTube, it is on wherever you have your audio podcasts as well. So Amazon, iHeart, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review. That's a big help as well. We're only a month away from SEC Media Days, which means the Sunbelt Media Days are the week after. So we're looking forward to all of that coming up next month. All right, let's wrap things up with the head coach of the Georgia Southern basketball Eagles, Charlie Henry, about what intrigues him about the program and what are the expectations for 2023. Sure. We're talking with Charlie Henry, the head coach of Georgia Southern basketball. All right, what intrigued you about Georgia Southern? they weren't a bad team last year. I mean, they finished 500. They lose to the eventual Sun Belt champion Raging Cajuns in the Sun Belt Conference tournament. What intrigues you about being the head coach of Georgia Southern basketball? Because that's a little bit different than Georgia Southern football, where Clay Helton is like, yeah, the only thing that matters around here is championships. That's the only thing that matters, because he's got a bunch of trophies staring him every time he goes to work.
Yeah, opportunity. First off, our athletic director Jared always references to people in alignment. I felt really good as I got to know Jared about where his vision was for basketball, the potential he saw in the program. He really sold his vision to me. Our chief operating officer Chris Davis, even though he did come from Auburn, it took me a little while to get over that. He was great as well. Leonard Bevel, foundation president. I had a really good feel with the people there first, their excitement to be at Georgia Southern. And then as I dug in a little bit and just did my research, just a tremendous potential. Obviously, you've seen it with football and the success they had under Coach Russell and carrying on. Coach Helton, great year one. He's going to do great things. So the potential that it, do something that hadn't been done in a little while, obviously at Georgia Southern, that was exciting. I think it's in an unbelievable location. I think it has a great campus environment. Georgia Southern people love Georgia Southern, and I wanted to go somewhere where people cared, and I knew I would get that here, and it's been evident in my 3 or 4 months here. So that was really big to me. So to me, it all felt right.
I think that's a good point. I think Georgia Southern may be another one of those programs that have their own little fan base. Southern Miss is another one you'll find out, compared to schools in Alabama and Louisiana for that fact of the matter, right? Small local minority may not be, but a lot of Cajuns fans are LSU fans. In Alabama, I mean, South Alabama moves a football game depending on when the Iron Bowl is. So most South Alabama fans are either Alabama or Auburn fans, where I think you're right. Georgia Southern kind of has their own fan base, especially passionate about basketball. So let's talk about your experience, because you have you don't look that old. I mean, you seem to be very, very young. You have a wide range of basketball experience from the G League, through college and now being a head coach. Tell Georgia Southern the different kind of experiences you've had, and what's it like to coach, because guys are going there, right? Scoot Henderson apparently is going to be a high draft pick on Thursday. What's the difference between coaching the G League and at the highest levels of college basketball?
Yeah, I really think there's probably more similar than different. I guess the biggest difference is in the G League, you don't have to worry about your guys going to class. You don't have to worry about APR and hours and compliance and stuff. The guys kind of run the practice hours. So if you're going 5 hours, you'll probably have mutiny on your hands. But it's really more similar. These guys everywhere, they want to be coached. They want to be coached like pros, because ultimately that's their ambition to carve out a career for themselves and take care of their family at some level. So I think there's way more similarities. I feel like it's a luxury. Obviously, I've just been afforded opportunities to work for some great people. Coach Oates, who I worked for the last 4 years, Fred Hoiberg, those guys come immediately to mind. So as a young coach, I was able to get what all of us as young coaches want, which is opportunity. And they've given me opportunities, and it's just been unbelievable for me. I do think it helps me. I think the G League's a tremendous growth tool for young coaches because of the adaptability and the flexibility of the league. You'll have a guy and then you won't have him. Maybe something good happens, he gets called up, or your team's rolling and now they send down 2 assignment guys, and you got to tell your team that's playing really well for you, well, these 2 guys are coming down and they got to play a lot, and we need to kind of build our attack around these 2 guys now. So it really I heard another coach say, it was Coach Van Gundy, say it's really helpful to coach professionally because the power dynamics not in your favor. But what it allows you to do is kind of you create buy-in by explaining the why we do why we do things, why we do what we do. So I think it's been unbelievably helpful to me.
All right, to wrap things up with the head coach of Georgia Southern basketball, Charlie Henry, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. All right, so I was actually aware of Nate Oates, being from upstate New York. My friend is the voice of the Buffalo Bulls, so I was aware of Nate Oates. When he came to Alabama, struggled like for a half a season and then reeled off a bunch of wins, and you can see the progress and the turnaround. But there's not, with the NIL and with the transfer portal, there is not like this 4 or 5 year, we can build a program over time deal. And I know these guys were at their programs years leading into it, but Marshall and Southern Miss had like the best 1 year turnarounds in NCAA history the last couple of years. You add JMU and you add these teams that are new to the Sun Belt, and 3 of those 4 teams got the top 4 seeds. The Cajuns were the other one. What are your expectations and heading into 2023, and how quickly do you feel like you need to build up the program?
Yeah, I feel everything you said. I think the nature of college basketball is it's pretty year to year now. Obviously, the way you do things, your standards and stuff don't change from year to year. But with with guys able to, as they should be able to, the one time transfer rule, it's a very year to year deal now, similar to other places I've coached. So we're trying to be good in year one. Like if we're not good in year one, it's not a reflection on, anybody but myself. That's just the nature of college basketball. So we're not throwing a safety net out there or anything. We're trying to be good in year one. And we know it's a great league. We know the challenge ahead of us. Some really, really good coaches, really, really good teams. But we're not looking year 2, year 3. We're working every day to be good this year. And we feel like we've added some pieces where we can do that.
He's Charlie Henry, head coach of Georgia Southern basketball, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Thanks so much for joining us, Coach, and we'll see you down the road.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me again, Dave.